Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're going to go talk to someone that has got extensive experience at the tight end position in the NFL. We're going to talk about his career. We're going to also talk about some of the tight ends in the AFC South as well. Again, I've got an expert at the tight end position, in my opinion, and that would be former NFL tight end Byron Chamberlain. What's going on, man?
How you doing, Mike? Thanks for having me on your show, man.
All right, thanks for coming on. We're going to get into your career, and then we're going to talk a little, again, the AFC South tight ends, kind of pick them apart just a little bit. But before we do that, like I open up every show, it's the Get Off Your Chest segment. Something that may be on my mind, maybe sports, might be something else. But on this episode, it's definitely going to be sports. It's going to be football, and it's going to be NFL running backs. To me, I think they have got the ultimate disrespect the last few years. Honestly, looking at it, especially I'm just going to focus on this offseason. You got Saquon Barkley, you got Josh Jacobs, you have Tony Pollard. All three of them were basically franchise tagged, and neither of them have long-term contracts.
Okay.
Saquon Barkley is more likely going to hold out. Josh Jacobs sounds like he's going to hold out. Tony Pollard's probably going to show up, but neither of these three have long-term deals, and it's just kind of frustrating if you watch the position, the devaluing of it, and nobody really wants to pay them, but they're getting beat up, handling the football, things like that. And you saw a lot of the running backs talk about it on social media, which Derrick Henry, who rarely ever talks on social media, got on social media to say something about it. He was frustrated about it. Christian McCaffrey did. A few other players did as well, but Saquon, just want to stay focused on him for a second. He was their offense. He was the guy that caught the ball in the backfield. He ran the football for them, yet they pay the quarterback, but don't pay him. And, it's just, to me, it's kind of, interesting in that dynamic that even though he was your offense, you still don't want to pay him. And you think, oh, we can throw Daniel Jones out there, it'd be all right. It's kind of frustrating to kind of see some of these situations pan out. I mean, Josh Jacobs was the only consistent thing on the Raiders offense last year. Yet don't want to pay him either. And Tony Pollard, I mean, Dallas Cowboys fans, I know they love Zeke Elliott, but Tony Pollard was the best back on that team last year. And they don't want to pay him either. It's just watching all these offenses and these different things that are going on and the running back position just getting smacked in the face every single year, even though they are important to these offenses. Forget the running back at the age of 30. They are important to the specific offenses with the particular players. Yet teams don't want to pay them because they may get injured. But newsflash, a quarterback can get injured, a wide receiver can get injured, offensive tackle can, a linebacker, a deep end, and on and on and on. Pay these people, please. Pay them, or else you won't have anybody really paying the position. Because contrary to popular belief, you can't plug and play at a running back all the time. You got to have somebody back there that knows what they're doing. You can't just throw a rookie in there and be like, okay, it's good. Everybody isn't the San Francisco 49ers that can throw anybody back there and can run the football. It just doesn't happen that way. Do you have any thoughts, Byron?
Man, I echo what you said. And you look at guys like you mentioned, the Tony Pollards, the Saquon Barkleys, the Josh Jacobs. These are guys that are the focal point of offenses. And I know it's a passing league, and I know the league has changed, and it's a quarterback-driven league at this point. And those are the guys that are getting these astronomical deals. But in order to have a balanced offense and an offense, to me, that is going to take you to a championship level, you must have somebody back there that can tote the rock. And you need to pay those guys. And I understand, like, a lot of people, think about, you can just plug and anybody in and play those. No, some of those guys are special. Like like I said, we mentioned the Saquon Barkleys, and I think it kind of started. I played on a team back in the late '90s and early 2000s where we had Terrell Davis, and then we had Orlandis Gary, and then we had Mike Anderson and Clinton Portis. And a lot of people thought, okay, well, they could just plug a guy in that system. No, those guys were special. They were really special guys. And, I just see how the game has changed. You're getting into more 3, 4, 5 wide receiver sets. And so that position, that bell cow in the backfield has been devalued for sure. And it's frustrating though when you see guys perform though. When you see guys that, like the Saquon Barkley, like you mentioned, come back off of an injury and basically be the entire offense for the Giants. Running the ball, catching the ball, everything. You see a Josh Jacobs who the Raiders can hand the ball to him 20 times a game and he's going to produce. And so, I know how Tony Pollard is viewed. He's not viewed as a guy that you can hand the ball 20, 25 times, but the guy is a playmaker. And the production and his numbers say he's the best back on that team. So I feel like these teams have got to step up and pay these guys what they're worth and their value.
Definitely. I mean, somebody threw an idea out there about them getting the free agency quicker or taking away the fifth-year option for them, and I like that idea as well. But it's just, to me, you got to find a way to pay these guys. Because, I mean, ultimately, if you don't pay running backs, there's not going to be quality running backs. That guy that may be leaning towards potentially playing a linebacker or potentially playing wide receiver, he's going to lean towards those positions rather than playing running back.
I 100% agree with you. And there's a lot of kids out there who are very talented running backs, and they're going to have to make a choice. If this trend continues, they're going to have to make serious choices. Do I play, on the other side of the ball, or do I try to be a wide receiver or a slot guy or what? And it's just, like you said, the quality of that position is going to suffer.
Right. Definitely. You're going to have a lot of, unfortunately, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but you're going to have a lot of tryhards at the running back position eventually.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I had to get that off my chest for this episode. But of course, we're going to get to the episode and we're going to talk about you. We want to highlight you. Nice. And we're going to start, of course, you grew up, you were born in Hawaii.
Yes.
Grew up in San Diego, correct?
I grew up in Hawaii and San Diego, yes.
Okay. And then kind of later on, as you got a little older, you moved to Texas, correct?
Yes. Moved to Fort Worth, Texas, and that's where I was introduced to the game that changed my life. And anybody knows about high school football in Texas, and that's when I started playing in high school. It's a whole nother beast than any other state. It's a big deal. It's taken serious, and it especially when I got into it back then. I mean, it was a big deal that you played high school football, and if you became a high school football star, you were a big deal at your school and your city and the state. So that's how I got introduced to the game, the state of Texas. Good old Friday night lights.
I hear you there. Now, before you got introduced to the actual game, I know you probably had some other aspirations of things you wanted to do. Can you tell us about what you kind of aspired to do before you got introduced to the game of football?
Believe it or not, if you asked me growing up what sport I would like to go professional at, I'd probably tell you I wanted to be a professional golfer. I started playing golf way before Tiger Woods made it cool in our culture to get out there on the golf course. I started playing when I was about 8 or 9. And my grandfather was a scratch golfer, and he was a golf teacher as well at the high school that he coached. And so he was my favorite person on the planet. And just being able to be on a golf course with him, spend 4, 5, 6 hours on the course and being with him, I mean that was heaven for me. And so he taught me the game, introduced it to me while I was young, and it was my favorite game, and it still this day is one of my favorite sports to participate in, and I play as much as I possibly can.
Man, one thing I did not learn to do growing up, did not learn how to play golf, man. And funny thing is, both of my best friends, they both know how to play golf, and I have zero idea how to play golf.
Man, golf to me it's the most challenging sport. If you're competitive, it leans into your competitive nature, and every shot is different every day on the golf course. You can play the same course, 5 days a week, and it'll be 5 different courses, just because all the things that you have to factor in, that you have to take account of when you're trying to create and hit shots. So I love the game, and it's something that my grandfather played to the day he died, and at 80 plus, and I'll probably be doing the same when I'm that age.
I hear you there. Now, you ended up going to Missouri to play, and then you transferred to Division II Cheney State, which is in Nebraska, correct?
No, Wayne State.
Wayne State.
In Nebraska.
Okay.
Yes.
Wayne State.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started off at Missouri. I was there for 3 years. I played 2, redshirted 1, and I had a really good start to my college career there on the field. The problem was they didn't tell me I didn't have to go to every party, man. So I was away from home, living it up. Every sorority, every fraternity party that they had, I was there, and wasn't getting it quite done in the classroom. And it caught up to me, and had my moment of truth where, hey, you got to get it together. And fortunately, I had some coaches who believed in me and wanted to see me succeed and not just flunk out of school. And Dirk Cutter was the guy who really took me under his wing and guided me and made sure I got to a school that would give me a chance academically and as well as athletically to succeed. And so I thank him all the time for really believing in me, even at my lowest point as far as my academic career. But we had some other coaches, Andy Reid, Coach Reid, who's the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs now. He's another guy that really helped me out and mentored me, and really took an interest in me, even when like I said, I was at my lowest point, and really poured into me and said, hey, just because you're here doesn't mean you have to stay here at this point. Just get yourself together. You have the ability, you have the talent. You just got to make sure that you are taking care of your responsibilities, in the classroom as well. So,
okay. So you ended up going to Wayne State and put up big numbers there, I should say.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You ended up being the all-time leading receiver there.
Yes. Yes.
So I got to ask. You went from you went there to be the all-time. You become the all-time leading receiver there, but when it came to pro time, you ended up being a tight end. So how did that kind of happen?
Well, I got drafted as a receiver. And so I played my first season and a half at the tight end position. I'm sorry, at the receiver position. And actually, my second year, I was kind of doing both, receiver and tight end. But back then, that's when they had NFL Europe. And after my rookie year, the Broncos allocated me to the Rhine Fire. And, Mike Shanahan met with me and he said, hey, I want to make you a tight end. I think you'd be good at the position. And, we're going to send you over there to get you some experience. So I played for the Rhine Fire after my rookie year with the allocation of the Broncos and wound up being the leading receiver in the league. I had the most catches and most touchdowns. I think Sean LaChapelle got me in yards, but he was a receiver and I'm playing the tight end position. So, it kind of just made that transformation there. And then I had an excellent mentor in Shannon Sharp, one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history and a guy that can talk with the best of them. But Shannon really took me under his wing. He saw that I had potential. And I remember the thing he said to me. He said, listen, if you're good as they say you are, we think you are, or think you can be, I'm going to teach you everything I know because I believe you can help us win a Super Bowl. And that was Shannon's exact words. And, a lot of guys, when you're competing for the same position, they're not going to help you out. and Shannon was gracious enough to do it, because Shannon understood, you know, you need great teammates and you need great backups if you're going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And he did that. And I think too, for him, he's so competitive that he was never going to let me outplay him. You know, even when I had my great moments, and he taught me things, you know, he really stepped up his game. And I think it really took him off then from 95 on to, you know, being, you know, one of the best tight ends in the game. And especially, you know, he got 3 Super Bowls after that. So I thank him all the time, you know, as being my mentor and being my friend all these years. But what he did for me, just teaching me how to be not just a tight end, but a professional.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, we're going to get more into the Denver Bronco days. I have a couple questions there.
Okay.
But before we do, we got to take a quick commercial break. You know, we got to pay the bills around here on touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back. And before we went to break, we were talking a little Denver Broncos, talking a little Shannon Sharpe. Now, I'm going to have a question about Shannon Sharpe as well. But up first, I do have to ask, of course, about the Denver Broncos. You did play during your career, the Broncos, Vikings, and then the Redskins, of course, and now the Commanders. Now, with the Broncos, I want to stick with kind of the Broncos and the Vikings part of your career. Now, of course, y'all went back-to-back winning Super Bowls. So I've got to ask, what was the environment? What was the feeling around this team during that time when you all were you know, going back to back winning Super Bowls and were, you know, basically on top of the NFL world?
I mean, the environment in the locker room was, you know, we just had a great mix. We had a great mix of older veterans. We had a great mix of young talent. We had some amazing leaders, some of the best leaders of you know that's ever played the game. We, of course, John Elway was the man in that locker room, and it wasn't even a question of who was the guy and whose team it was. It was definitely John Elway's team. But then you had Hall of Famers like Shannon Sharpe and Terrell Davis and Steve Atwater and Gary Zimmerman, guys who were some of the greatest to ever do it. And so those guys really held us accountable. They really led by example. Shannon was probably the biggest talker, but Shannon, you know, he also led by the way he worked. And they were, you know, the great players on our team, the Ed McCaffreys and the Rod Smiths and the Bill Romanowskis, those guys were the hardest workers. So it was easy to see what the standard was, because when you saw the guys who were the you know, guys who were the legends, you know, in the league, and you see them as the hardest workers, you know that, you know, if you're not one of those guys, well, you got to work just as hard to try to keep up with the standards. So we held each other accountable. We had fun while we were doing it. It was a close-knit team, and we got to a point, man, where we played for each other more than anything else. Our responsibility was for the guy that was lining up next to you, and you didn't want to let him down, and you want to make sure that you were accountable and you did your job for the guy next to you. We had a saying in our locker room: "Don't be that guy." And that's all we have to say. Don't be that guy. The whole saying was, don't be that guy that messes it up for everybody, but don't be that guy. So make sure you're handling your business, whether that meant the way you were working out, the way you were eating, the way you were training, the way you were watching film, the way you took the practice field, everything you had to do. Don't be that guy that mess it up for everybody.
Nice. It sounds like definitely was fun and a challenging environment in terms of, I guess trying to compete to, I guess, be the better person out there every day for each other, and not only for yourself too.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was the thing too. It was a competitive environment, and Mike Shanahan, he loved it. He loved the fact that everything we did was about competition. It was about competing. It was about being the best. It was about winning. I'll give you a quick story from the locker room. We had one of those basketball pop-a-shot machines, and guys would go in after practice, and it would always be about who could win. Who you challenge some guy, and you might you put something on it. The thing was a tank of gas. So you get your biggest SUV, and if you beat the guy shooting, he's got to buy you a tank of gas. So it was just everything we did was competitive, and it was about showing up and competing and winning.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, definitely was, I definitely sounds like an environment, a winning environment, because definitely, a winning environment is always a competitive one and one that, preaches excellence. But you mentioned Shannon Sharpe being your mentor and someone that, poured into you. You got any Shannon stories with like the game or anything like that?
I can't give you a specific Shannon story that during the game, but I will say this. Shannon was the guy who would literally look at every linebacker and every defensive lineman, and he'd pull out the game program or the little book that they give you before the season that has everybody's information in there, and sometimes he would get personal on those guys. And he'd put that information in his head. We're playing somebody, and he's out there with getting people frustrated and just talking. But the thing about Shannon is he talked the talk, but he walked the walk as well. And he put up the numbers, and he always had the stats to back it up. Anything that he talks. So, and I believe if you're on the other team, he's probably like the worst guy ever. But if he's on your team, man, he was one of the greatest teammates I've ever had, because he's going to bring it. He's going to clown around, and he's going to talk crap and do all these other things. But he's going to bring it every time in practice. He's going to bring it every time in the game. I think the funniest situation, one of the funniest situations, when we were just killing the Patriots, and he called the president on the red phone on the sideline, and 3 seconds later the phone rings again, and it's a classic clip. You can look it up on YouTube. It's probably on there. But I think we were beating them like 38-3 or 9 or something like that, and their fans are leaving, and it was just a hilarious situation.
Definitely. I remember that clip because I've seen that clip multiple times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was hilarious. That definitely was funny. But, of course, from the Broncos, you didn't necessarily stay there your entire career with the Broncos. You did move on to the Vikings. Now, with the Vikings, you essentially were the guy at tight end. So, and you get there and you make a Pro Bowl. So with all the hard work, things like that you put in to make a Pro Bowl, how did that make you feel?
Oh, it was a big deal for me. It was a big deal. You got to remember, like you said, I came out of a Division II Wayne State. I was a 7th-round draft pick. I was a guy who was a receiver that changed positions in the NFL. Not a lot of guys do that. And to be able to make the Pro Bowl, and that year I was the leading tight end in the NFC as far as catches and yards. I was number one in both categories. I think Bubba Franks got me in. He led in touchdowns. But to go from where I came from, at being drafted in the 7th round pick number 222, to be considered, one of the best tight ends in the NFC was a big deal. And it was a goal of mine that I had set when I got to the NFL. And so to see it come to fruition. And the other thing that made it extra special was that's when the Pro Bowl was still played in Hawaii. So I actually got to go back home to Hawaii and play in Aloha Stadium. So just that whole situation was special. And it was one of the proudest moments of my career as far as an individual accomplishment.
Definitely. I can definitely understand that one. Now, you were, to me, considered a veteran on that team. How did it feel to kind of go from being, one of the guys that was a cog in the championship to be a guy that's dependent on for veteran leadership for a team?
That's what, when I met with Coach Green, Dennis Green, rest in peace, that's what he really said to me. And that's what he wanted me to do, is to come in and provide leadership and come in and teach these guys what it took to be a winner and just be that example. And so I welcomed that role. I welcomed the mentor role that I stepped in, because that's what, when we talked earlier, guys had done for me, Shannon Sharp, Anthony Miller, Rod Smith, Ed McCaffrey, those guys had done for me. So I welcomed the opportunity. And then I was playing with some great players, Hall of Famers, Randy Moss, Chris Carter. And so it was kind of easy for me at the tight end position. Our third receiver was Jake Reed. And so, we knew every game Randy Moss is going to get double teamed every time. It ain't even a question. They're doubling Randy Moss. They may double Chris every now and then. And I'm going to be the guy that I'm going to get the one-on-one coverage every time. So all I got to do is beat a linebacker. And so that I love that offense. There was a lot of freedom in that offense. There was a lot of creativity in that offense, and you can kind of do things and be a little freer than our offense was in Denver. So I loved it, and it paid off for me, like you said, in a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking about that offense, man. You had, I believe, Robert Smith was the back as well.
Robert had just retired, so we had gotten Michael Bennett.
Michael Bennett, yes,
one of the fastest guys I've ever seen. Dante Culpepper was kind of coming to his own in that team, so at the quarterback position. And so, that offense had some firepower. So,
definitely. I still remember watching those teams. I remember every time that Dante Culpepper threw a touchdown, he's doing his hands like this.
He's got to get the roll on. Yeah, you got to get the roll on. Yeah.
Yes, I definitely remember all of that. Remember that offense there was always explosive. I mean, it didn't, I wouldn't say it didn't matter who the quarterback was. It did, but just whoever the quarterback was, it just seemed like they stepped in and just took off with those weapons that were out there with them.
And I gotta say this, man, and everybody kind of knows this, but man, Randy Moss, the greatest athlete I've ever seen. He's a guy that could show up on any football field or anywhere and just be the best athlete on the field, period. And just what an amazing teammate as well. I love Randy. He's one of my most favorite teammates. He's such a guy that if he's got your back, man, Randy's got your back. You know it. And so I just got to give him a shout out, because he was such a great teammate.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, I never got to experience being a teammate with him, but you can always tell when he's talking and the emotion with which he talks, on TV being an analyst. So I can definitely see where you get those sentiments and those feelings. But, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about the AFC South, talk about the tight ends in the AFC South there. But we're going to take one more commercial break, and then we'll come back and get into that.
You ever missed your mom's home-cooked meals? Well, you're not always able to get to those, but you are able to get to H&T's Home Cooking. Established in 2005, Patty Palin and her staff go out 6 days a week to create some of the best homestyle meals you can taste, and at a fair price. So if you're in Nashville and you like chicken and dressings, green beans, macaroni and cheese, and other things, stop by H&T's Home Cooking. Their address is 2264 Murfreesboro Pike, Nashville, Tennessee 37217. And they are open Monday through Thursday and Sunday, 11 to 6:30, and Friday, 11 to 7. And if you want to order online, of course, the option is available as well at hthomecooking.com, or you can call 615-367-0049. H&T's Home Cooking, food for your soul.
All right, and we are back. And like I mentioned before the break, we're going to talk a little bit about the AFC South tight ends. You know, we have Evan Ingram and Dylan Schultz, who are the veterans, and we have the young guys, the young guns, Chika Kwanko and Jelani Woods from the Texans and the Colts. Now, I want to talk about the veterans to kind of start this off. And the veterans, of course, Evan Ingram, he had a career year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then you have Dalton Schultz, that is going from the Cowboys to the Texans. Now, I wonder, you know, Evan Ingram just got paid. He got a 3-year, $41 million deal extension from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he was a huge key to the way that Trevor Lawrence kind of got going last year, found his groove, you know, and started to become the guy everyone thought he was going to be when he entered the NFL. My question for you is for Evan Ingram. Do you think that he could kind of duplicate that? Because, you know, that was the first year he really kind of showed out and showed to be the guy that everyone thought he could be. Do you think he could potentially duplicate that? Or do you think as far as catchers are going away?
I think he can. I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the young quarterback that he has. And now Trevor is, you know, he started off slow, but he's gotten some confidence, you know, and he's had some success. And everybody knows the quarterback's best friend is the tight end. And so, and Evan's a guy who's athletic. He can make plays with the ball in his hand. And you got this young quarterback with this type of confidence. I believe he can match those numbers and have another successful season like he did last year.
And as far as Dalton Schultz, he's kind of in the position that Evan Ingram was in last year in terms of being, you know, a guy that can be a safety valve or a guy there for a young quarterback, and C.J. Stroud, you know, rookie from Ohio State. Do you see maybe Dalton Schultz maybe having potentially a career year, given that the lack of weapons that they have out there and the focal point that he probably is going to be?
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this out loud because I didn't say it before. When I've talked about Dalton Schultz before, I didn't believe in him. I didn't think he could be that guy, and he showed me some things in Dallas last year. And you know, the problem that he's going to have, and I'm going to mention it again, is the quarterback position. Now, is CJ going to come in and he's going to be that guy? Now, it's a hard deal to do as a rookie quarterback who's drafted that high because the expectations is so high. But is he going to have success at the quarterback position? And that's going to be Dalton's key. To me, I don't see it with the Texans this year. I really don't. Dalton should have a solid year, but I don't think he's going to be that the standout guy in the AFC South, like the number one tight end in the AFC South. I just don't see it.
Gotcha.
And maybe it's just my Dalton Schultz bias because I didn't believe in him last year, but then I had to give it up to him because he did his thing last year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, just that mixture of veterans they brought in and the young guys that they brought in Houston. I mean, I think, honestly, with the season, they're probably going to start slower, but at the end of the season, you're probably going to see potentially what they could be the next year. That's what I'm kind of thinking going into this season with them. But, you know, like you said, we'll see. We'll see what happens, right?
I think it's going to be a long year for the Texans, but –
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that. Okay. One thing I also want to point out or talk about is the young guns. That would be Chika Kwanko, and Jelani Woods. Now, Chig got to play a little bit more than Jelani did last year. Jelani showed flashes. I mean, he's a freakishly talented tight end. He was a quarterback at one point in Ohio State. Or Oklahoma State, and then they switched him to tight end, which is amazing in its own right that he was a quarterback before he went to play tight end. But definitely it's going to be interesting to see those two. But as far as those two, which one do you think is probably the one that may be in the better position to actually succeed this season?
I'm gonna say, and not just because you're in Nashville, but I'm gonna say I struggle with his name.
Just call him Chig, man. Just call him Chig.
Yeah, Chig. Okay, I want to say Chig. I think Chig is in a great position because he's got. First of all, we know Derrick Henry's the man, and if Derrick Henry's coming back and he's healthy, that's going to help out. The other part is bringing DeAndre Hopkins in, and if DeAndre Hopkins can be productive like he's been everywhere he's been, that's it's kind of like the situation that I was in Minnesota. DeAndre Hopkins is going to draw a lot of attention. Derrick Henry, of course, is going to draw the most attention. But you got a young tight end in Chig who's athletic, who can get down the field. I mean, he's a guy that averaged 14 yards a catch, which is that's pretty big time. And so I think he's set up to be in a better position of the two young tight ends to really have some success and really kind of blossom sooner.
Now, I know I said for this year, but looking at just both of them in general, which one do you like more in terms of or the long-term potential? Because looking at it, I'll be honest, looking at it, I like Chig, and I like Chig a lot. But looking at that walking box of talent, Jelani Woods, it's hard to say no and go to Chig on that one.
It is, but the thing about it is with football is you got to look at the pieces around the players, and I know that what the Colts have a pretty decent running game with Taylor, in the backfield. But to me, that beast back there, Derrick Henry, he's going to bring the 8 guys in the box. So when you play action off that, Chig is going to have a lot of opportunities because the other guy that they're going to worry about in passing game, like I said, is DeAndre Hopkins. So, it's going to be interesting to see. But right now, I understand about freak athletes, but I think Chig is in a position, in a situation that is going to allow him to have a better year and maybe even a better career.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's just interesting because I honestly thought that the Titans were going to draft Jelani Woods and then they drafted Chig. And when I saw Chig, I was like, wow, look at this guy. He reminded me of what's his name? He reminded me of the guy that used to play for the Titans as well at tight end and then moved on. He doesn't remind me of Delaney Walker.
No.
He doesn't remind me of Delaney. He reminds me of Delaney in terms of moving additional positions. But he reminds me more of Jonnu Smith. That's who he reminds me of.
Okay.
Yeah, those two are like almost clones to me.
But the thing that I see, and like I said, I see a guy that can get down the field and make big plays. I had a year where I averaged like 15.3 yards a catch, and it was the best. It was the best on the team. I was better than Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey, Shannon Sharp, and so you have a guy that's averaging 14 yards a catch. That's getting down the field at the tight end position. Most guys at tight ends, if you're averaging 11 and 12 yards, that's pretty decent. So, like I said, with a healthy Derrick Henry, with a healthy and productive DeAndre Hopkins, I think this kid is set up for success, man. I just think the situation with these big time players around him is going to allow him mismatches. It's going to allow him single coverage. It's going to allow him in the play action game to really get open and really show what he can do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting in Nashville this year, especially the rumors out there of a particular offensive tackle that they're looking at too. So to replace Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, there's rumors out there.
Who's suspended. Yeah,
George Fenn is the guy I'm talking about. So he's particular. He actually said he might be interested. So I'm thinking the Titans might just make that offer potentially. Well, we're going to see though. Nothing's for sure.
Not, of course, nothing's for sure, but yeah, like you said, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of the show where we play a game.
Okay.
It's 5 questions, 2 answers, and you got to give one choice. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
All right. First question: John Elway or Terrell Davis? Which one was your favorite teammate of the two?
Well, anybody that knows me knows Terrell is my best friend. Everyone describes us as, that's my brother from another mother. Our families are close. Our moms are best friends. I love John. John was a great teammate, but TD's my guy. I gotta go with Terrell. It's not even a hard choice right here.
All right. Now you're trying to relax. You're chilling out in your house. Long day, and you got one of these 2 artists to listen to.
Okay.
You got Stevie Wonder. You got Marvin Gaye. Which one are you going with to relax and chill with?
Relax and chill. Relax and chill. It depends. Am I by myself? Is there female company with me? Man, that is a great question, bro. That is a great question. I'm gonna go with Stevie. I'm gonna go with Stevie on this one. Stevie's got a lot of hits. He's got a lot of songs. He's got a lot of albums. Marvin, unfortunately, was taken away from us, way too early. So I'm gonna go with Stevie. I'm gonna go with Stevie on this one.
Stevie also has songs for all different kinds of moods too, by the way.
Oh, yes, he does.
Yes,
he does.
All right. Let's see. You have to cheer for one team.
Okay.
That team is either the Raiders or the Chiefs. Which team are you cheering for?
This one's very easy, actually. I hate them both. I hate them absolutely to my core. But there's one caveat, and I said it earlier in this thing, us talking. I've known Andy Reid since I was 15 years old. He helped recruit me to University of Missouri. Also on his staff is Dave Tobe, Andy Hill, and I think they had one more University of Missouri coach on there. So I've known them guys since I was 15, 16 years old when they were recruiting me. They helped me out when I was in college and even at my toughest time in college. So this one's easy. I would go with the Chiefs. I love Andy. He's been a great guy in my life for a long time, and I absolutely hate the Raiders. So if we had to pick anybody in the Raiders, it's anybody in the Raiders. It's anybody over the Raiders.
Gotcha. Now I'm going to pick this one. People, you like to travel, so
yes.
I don't know if you've been to these places, but I'm gonna call these places out. Okay. If you had to go pick one place, Bora Bora or Singapore, which one would you go with?
Man, I'm an island boy, so I would definitely go with Bora Bora. It's one place I haven't been. I haven't been to Singapore either. I've been to 60 countries, and my goal is try to get to 100 countries. But I haven't been to either one of those. But like I said, I'm an island boy. I love the water. I love crystal clear water, and I could hang at the beach all day, every day. So it definitely is Bora Bora.
Definitely, yeah. I've often said if I win the lottery, that's where I want to go, is to Bora Bora and spend like weeks there.
Okay.
Let's see the next one. Let's see. That's what 1, 2, 3. This is question number 5.
Okay.
We're gonna go to Texas with this one.
Okay.
You got one group to listen to, and they're both out of Texas, and they're both actually in the same part of Texas, which would be down in Houston area. For sure. Houston area, I should say.
All right.
Ghetto Boys or UGK. You got one group to listen to.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Man, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Ghetto Boys, man. I like Scarface. I think Scarface is one of the most underrated rappers in hip hop history. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think Willie D for a minute. I mean, he was hot for a minute as well. And then you go with Bushwick Bill to round it all off. I gotta go with the Ghetto Boys.
All right. Okay. Well, that is 5 questions, 2 answers, 1 choice. You're off the hot seat. We have reached the end of the show. I want to thank you, Byron Chamberlain, for coming on the show. Can you tell everyone anything you're working on and where they can find you on social media?
Okay. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. It's BC_Chamberlain, my last name. Right now I'm working on a travel show, actually. And it's a show that's going to be following me as I take my journey to get to 100 countries. I'm at 60 right now, so I got 40 more to go. The name of the show is going to be called Byron versus the Globe. And we're working on shooting the pilot in the Bahamas in next month in August. So be looking out for that. But you can, like I said, find me at BC_Chamberlain on Instagram and Twitter.
Man, that sounds like fun, man. Can they pay me to travel too? Can they pay?
Then who's gonna do this show, bro?
Yeah, I know. I'd have to be like, I can't do it. I gotta go. But no, I'm kidding.
Hey, Mike.
What's that?
I was gonna say, Mike, thanks for having me, man. And if you, I would love to come back on your show sometime during the season when my Broncos are leading the AFC and the number 1 team in the AFC.
Well, I definitely, it's going to be interesting there with Sean Payton and Mr. Russell Wilson together. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think I feel like last year was an anomaly for Russ. I think the fact that the coaching change is going to be the biggest situation that's going to help the Broncos, become back competitive. I mean, I think the Chiefs #1 are definitely the #1 team in that division, but can the Broncos compete with the Chargers for the #2 spot? And I think Sean Payton is going to make all the difference.
We'll definitely see. But for those that are actually watching right here, of course, we reached the end of the show. My name is Mike Patton. You can find me on Twitter at MikePatton82. That's MikePatton 82 on Twitter. On Instagram, you can find me at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. Of course, you can find Touring the AFC South on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, wherever you find podcasts. And also, you can find the show on YouTube. Hello, everybody. All right, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Go ahead, subscribe, share, comment, whatever you want to do. I'd appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in to the latest edition of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.